On to assists. And the player that I've picked out for assists in the numbers is Marcus Rashford, because Rashford has first of all a fantastic human being. He's done fantastic work over the past few months. Marcus Rashford has 6 assists from 2.1 XA, which is expected assists. Mark, I've just briefly, for anyone who's unaware or would like a refresher, what is expected assists, and how can it be used, or what can it tell us?
Nice. Yeah, this is something we've spoken about a lot on the Football Fanalytics podcast as well. But I guess so. Expected assists, a bit like expected goals, digs a little bit deeper in terms of the quality of the shot, and it adds that bit more context. Expected assists is essentially an extension of that, because assists themselves, they can be such a poor indication of someone's creative ability. And you think of a lot of players and you judge them by how many assists they've got, but it's really not a fair reflection of their creativity, because you could have one player who plays a 2-yard pass and then their teammate goes on a mazy run and puts it in the top corner, and you can have another person who goes on the run themselves and puts it on a plate for a player 6-yard box for a Calvert-Lewin, as we spoke about before, and both get an assist, but the two people who have made that assist has done very different things. So what expected assist does is simply measure the likelihood that the pass that they make will actually lead to an assist for a goal. So it adds that further context. Again, a lot like expected goals, of just how much the quality of that pass is. And again, it's presented between a number of 0, so absolutely no chance of an assist, to 1, which is a certain assist. So it just adds that bit more context of just how well the pass has actually led to the likelihood of a goal.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm going to draw on an example from Serie A, but when I was sort of diving through the numbers of the top 5 leagues, I found that Rodrigo De Paul at Udinese has got 2 assists this season, and he's got some daft XA figure of something like 7. So that's an underperformance of his teammates, really, of about 5 goals. So I'm hoping that De Paul doesn't have a grasp on XA yet, because he'd be going into the training ground every day with a face like a slapped arse. Because if people like Kevin Lasagna aren't putting your chances away, you're gonna have a bit of an issue with them. But with Rashford, 6 assists from 2.1 XA, there is a deficit there, or rather an overperformance of around essentially 4 assists. Only Harry Kane has a greater overperformance when it comes to XA in the Premier League this season. But is it the same as sort of expected goals, where you'd expect more creative players to get to overperform their XA figures because they are by definition better players, so they are better than average?
Yeah, I think it obviously is the case with expected goals, where more often than not all players regress to the mean, as we like to say, over a long period. But I think expected assists is a little bit different for the example that you gave, where you have to then rely on the other player or multiple other players, depending on who you're setting up each time, to finish, and they might all have different finishing abilities. Whereas if it's expected goals, which, as I say, typically you do kind of even out over time, is only you each time taking that shot, so it's the same person. Whereas if this makes sense, that with expected assists, you're passing to different people each time, or you potentially are passing to different teammates each time. So there's likely to be a little bit more kind of noise or variation in that regard. But you're right that Rashford is kind of overperforming against his expected assists, and it's one of those. I'm kind of the same on our Football Fanalytics podcast, and I'm always the one who's a bit of a mood killer, in that Marcus Rashford has got a lot of assists this season, but on a per 90 basis, again, he actually jumps quite significantly down the list. On a per 90 basis, his expected assists are 26th in the league for all players, so just that bit lower. So it just shows just how much he is doing well, in his assists versus expected assists. And someone who is doing really well in terms of a per 90 rate of expected assists is Phil Foden, who, I mean, is just a joy to watch, isn't he? I think obviously he's got quality players around him, but he's definitely getting into quality areas and passing to others in quality areas as well. So Rashford is very good and an even better man, as you mentioned, but when you even it out over a per 90 basis, I'm sorry to say that he might not be as good as you might imagine in this season.
So all I'm hearing there essentially is because Marcus Rashford doesn't have a tram line in his hair, then we should pretty much discount every good thing he's ever done, basically. So that is Mark Carey's decision there. That Phil Foden is the one you should be focusing on, not Marcus Rashford. But no, I understand where you're coming from. Per 90 is the metric that you should be going off. And yeah, Phil Foden, absolutely. For the amount of minutes that he plays, the one thing that has always sort of stood out to me, and amazed is too strong of a word, but the thing that has always been there was that Phil Foden is coming onto the pitch in the 70th, 75th minute, 65th minute. He's having to get up to the speed of the game, and yet he just does it seamlessly. Creates chances seamlessly. It helps that he's playing with so many good players around him, but he still has to find them. And to be able to create those chances regardless is it's an endorsement of how hugely talented he is.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point about Foden and how he does definitely get up to speed. And I know that with all Man City players as well, you can't, for a fantasy Premier League perspective, you can't bank on any Man City player playing each time because they've got a gluttony of quality players that they rotate so well. But that's an interesting point about Foden because there's another bit of context from an analytics perspective there that his numbers do look really good, but he is coming on quite often against tired teams who have already been worn down by Man City's quality going forward. And it might slightly inflate his numbers in the sense that he's obviously coming on to a tiring team and able to run them ragged with his energy and with his quality. So again, over a longer period, it's always important to look at. I mean, Phil Foden's having an amazing season, but it's still important to look at it over a longer period. But his numbers certainly are stuck in everything.